What's up, guys? Leland here with Bottom Table Tyrants, and we're back with some more questions for our GM Roundtable. If you guys have any questions you'd like answered by the GMs, put them down in the comments below, and we'll see if there's any good ones. We'll add them in for the next show. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Six, because that's what the last one we were doing was. And I think we just got lucky with the right people, because now I realize we did get lucky with the right people, and I don't want to push that luck again. So probably that's the limit. Comfortable would be 4.
My player limit is 3 to 5 players.
I think the GM or DM, and then I think 5 is the max. But it goes back to, depends on the game system, where if you're the same thing, if you're spending 30 seconds a turn, you have 5 players, that means you got 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes between each event. And that just, especially in combat, gets very slow. So I think ideally it'd be 4 to 5 would be my preference.
I prefer to run 4 to 5 people. I think 4 to 5 people is the magic number for the best amount.
Yep.
I think the most amount that I would run, again, depending on like system, Rogue Trader, the way I do it with I simplify the combat. Fantasy ground, sorry.
Yeah.
But the way I do it, the maximum, I would never go above that number.
12.
And I would probably never really do above like 8 or something like that.
Okay.
And if I did something like that in D&D or something, it would have to be something very interactive, player with player, because you're just not going to get that spotlight time otherwise.
Any more than 5, and I feel like you've got too many heads at the table, too many people trying to take the limelight or not be able to have enough limelight to feel like they're impacting the story. I feel like I start to lose people above 5. Below 3, it just kind of feels like there's not enough coming to the table.
I have ran a game for, it was either 10 or 12 people in Rogue Trader, and I was a younger GM, and it was very difficult, but also a lot of fun. I think it depends on the system, and it depends on, what you're having your players do.
If you want your party to feel like they should die, kill them like real hard. And if you want them to feel like they have a fighting chance, then, I don't know, kill them a little bit hard and they'll probably beat you.
Yeah, I've had lots of bad combats. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes your players roll just killer, and monster dies early, and that happens. I've had some where the monster was rolls are going to be rolls. I definitely have both pulled and increased punch power based on the situation to increase the drama and the story for the players and myself.
It goes back to it's all gonna be Death Watch, it's all gonna be 40k and Fantasy Flight, because the big downfall of that whole system is the intricacy of the detail. It comes down to each creature's got 12 special rules that you have to look up and keep track of. And trying to play combat rules as written in that system was, you basically spend an hour and a half in a shootout in an alley kind of thing. It's just exhausting for everybody involved. So I basically figured out the basic, very quick math, and then just went with that, just to speed things up.
And then I've had some that just were kind of poorly designed on my part, and you just do your best to mitigate that in the moment and adjust on the fly.
I try to make combats especially big boss fights, with mechanics, because like World of Warcraft, I like mechanics in the fight, so it's not just hack and slash. And the one I worked really hard on, and they killed him instantly, and none of the mechanics went through whatsoever, and it was a very boring, meaningless fight that they're like, yeah, we killed the guy down, the alchemist demon, and it's like, man, that was probably the worst one.
I typically ask them, my first thing is, would you like me to describe that or would you like you to?
I like to, it's got to be usually funny or entertaining if someone rolls really badly. And then, I mean, that worst game session I had, that was what saved me, was someone was trying to throw a grenade near a fusion reactor, and that's when they really screwed up the roll. And then I was able to salvage that game by then having the whole ship blow up, or it just started going critical kind of thing.
I don't like this concept of you swing your axe and miss so hard that you chop yourself in the foot, take your own damage. That just feels clumsy and clunky.
If they're melee, throw the weapon. This is the go-to. They throw it.
I took a system from Colt, and I will use it anytime I'm playing any system that deals with anything like that. And it's a card system. It is a green card on one side and a red card on the other side. And everyone at the table, GM included, puts the card green side face up. And if anyone feels uncomfortable for any reason whatsoever, they flip that card to red, and you stop on that word. You don't you don't finish the sentence, you don't finish the story arc, you don't do it, you stop on that word. Everyone takes a break. The GM and that player can have a one-on-one conversation if the player's more comfortable with that, or if they want to talk as a group, they can talk about that. And it doesn't matter what the topic is, but whoever flipped the card to red gets to decide how the game progresses from there. Do you want to stop for the night? Do you want to cut that whole storyline out of the game? Do you want to continue but in this other messed up manner that they're okay with? It's up to them to decide.
I keep that stuff out of the game altogether. It goes back to finding the right players they're not there for that kind of thing. That's where they're getting their kicks, then it's not gonna work.
In my session 0, I always cover that. Those kind of things don't happen in my game, and if there's anything like that does, I don't really allow it in my games. If people are sitting down at my table expecting that kind of game, that's not what they're going to get.
Nice thing is, especially with 40K, you got aliens and mutants and monsters and all kinds of things. It's a lot easier to murder those things than kittens and puppies and things.
It's important to remember that every person is different and every person has different life experiences. You can be fine with a whole slew of things that someone else might get completely triggered by. And it's important not to feel like they're in the wrong just because it doesn't affect you.
Oh, I make it even more uncomfortable. So, if there's one thing I'm great at, is spotting that. So then I just make sure that they're the ones talking as much as possible. Buddy Scott was a good thing where it's like, hey, Scott, keep talking. What do you want to do there? How are you going to do that? Because eventually they'll pick up on it. But I thrive on that because if I were to GM for professional players, yeah, I would not do well. But the uncomfortable and the newbies, yeah, let's do that. So,
Okay.
oh yeah, I would make them talk a lot more.
Okay.
For those I've kind of played the same group for such a long time that when we first started, it was a lot of just trying to make it feel comfortable. And by doing that, it's the other players can help, or it's, if they ask what they don't have to roll. It just comes down to emphasizing the play aspect. What do you want to do? Like, you're not railed in like a video game type thing. Think about who your character is, and if they're able to kind of embody that sort of alternate persona, it seems to make it a lot easier for them to participate.
It depends on the personality. Sometimes you have to give them a little nudge into the spotlight, and sometimes you just have to let them get comfortable at the table by letting other people take the lead. It just depends.
Role-playing games are hard, and they take a lot of practice. It takes a lot of confidence and motivation to come out of that shell and start engaging just with people at the table with the rules of the game, much less the role-playing side of things. So I always start with patience.
Yeah, I ask them a lot of questions and make sure that they're talking too. Because the moment the moment you have someone else who's been doing it for a while start talking more, they're gonna shy away. So
Yeah,
I try to ask that person specifically, mentally focus on that new player, so that way they're talking a lot more. Because then they'll pick up on it.
It's okay if they say, I don't know. It's okay if they say, I'm not sure. I like to take the basis of what they've said and then expand upon it for them. Kind of build upon their foundation to give them an idea of, okay, this is what you started with. This is what it can turn into. And then they can kind of see those threads and start tying them themselves.
I definitely underprepare. Mostly just from a time standpoint, and then it's that trying to avoid sinking too much into the weeds, just because I've tried to over prepare before, and as players do, they completely unravel my elaborate schemes very quickly. And so I just try to be very fluid.
Sometimes I would say I over-prepare. So then when I over-prepare, that's a few sessions in. I'm like, cool. So then I don't, by the end of that session, all those sessions that I prepared for, I realize I haven't prepared much for the next ones because we've already utilized all the material I prepared for. So, yeah, 50-50.
So you always run in like, oh crap.
Yeah, because sometimes, man, I'm like, man, I'm solid for the next 2 months.
I feel like I over prepare almost all the time. This is my notes for the questions for today. That being said, I'm getting a lot better at understanding where that level of preparation needs to be cut off.
Underprepare.
Okay. There you go.
Because players.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Some of my best sessions are because I underprepared and had to be more on the spot. And it worked out much better than if I would have over-prepared.
When you prepare as much as you think your players are going to get to or get through in a session, they're going to break something, they're going to change something, and you're either going to need to throw out massive chunks of what you've put together, or you're going to just get through the bare minimum, scratch the surface of it. They'll get hung up on this one thing in your first line of notes, and you're not going to get to the rest of it. It's okay if that happens, because then you've got the next session already written and you don't have to worry about it.
I actually use that as a plot device for players, because when they see something like they see 1 + 1 is supposed to equal 2, but instead it equals 5, and they're like, why did that happen? And occasionally, it's sometimes I've made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare anymore, but what I learned is all you have to say is, huh, that's weird. I wonder why I did that. And you let their imagination either carry them into a different part of the story that it may not have done originally.
This is a debate that I have with my friends who I talk to about GMing with a lot. You've got Jesse in this video.
Mm-hmm,
This is a debate that I have with Jesse all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is worse to be less rigid with the rules. And that is because as a GM, we put in a lot of work to set the story, set the characters, build the world. And anytime that you break the rules down and make them lax, you set the precedent for the players to do that exact same action or worse in the future.
I know much more to the goosey side of things, because that's, I mean, as I've probably said multiple times, we'll continue to say, it's if things are getting bogged down by the rules and people have to look things up, or heaven forbid you get into an argument with somebody about, well, this spell says this in this case, and it's these many squares, and this is how the initiative is supposed to go according to the book, then you've almost lost your authority as the dungeon master or game master. And so if things are happening too quickly, then it makes it a lot easier to avoid those sort of pitfalls.
I would say less rigid.
Yeah, worse? Is that worse?
Yeah, I think it's worse to be less rigid. Because I focus a lot on those rules, because I know, as someone who's played before, I'll remember what a GM did for my character. So when I see the other character do it, the GM's probably forgotten about a scenario. But I will remember. And so I'll know when they get away with something else or didn't do something, I'll be like, hey, how come they can do it? I'll be the one that remembers that. So now as a GM, if I stick to the rules, it's objective. Sometimes you deviate, but it's easier to be consistent if you stick out to the rules.
Don't stop trying. And don't be afraid to be wrong.
When a character rolls a nat 20, it's important to remember that success can be measured in very different ways. Sure, you rolled a nat 20, it's a guaranteed success. That doesn't mean that you've developed mind control and you can just convince my NPCs to do whatever you want them to do. But I do want you to feel like you succeeded. So I usually give my players a different avenue or a different deal that they might be trying to make.
Figure out how to streamline actual gameplay as much as possible.
Don't forget the G in RPG. We're coming together to play a game. It should be fun. And it should be fun for all of your players and you.
Oh, prepare to look like a fucking idiot.
There you go.
Prepare for it, because it will happen.
And if your group has fun being ridiculous, be ridiculous. If your group has fun telling intricate, detailed, wonderful plot lines, do that. But remember, at the end of the day, it's a game, and you should be enjoying that experience.
That's it for now, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll be back with episode 3 of the Game Master Roundtable next week. Leland out.